could be counterproductive.
The shortage of rice, the shortage of soybean. Then we rather rely on Burkina, Mali, is there for onions and tomatoes. So if you do this and they are to retaliate, who will feel the impact? So we think that government has rushed in taking that decision.
Also coming up, heightened tension in Serwaa after NDC supporters clashed with armed men clad in military uniform who attempted to arrest the Member of Parliament for the area. And also coming up, Member of Parliament for the North Tongue constituency, Samuel Okujeto Ablakwa, questions the Vice President's commitment to stopping state capture, despite his latest assurance of supporting any law that bars politically exposed persons from acquiring state properties.
We want a social contract. We want something we can hold you by. You don't have that in your manifesto. We don't want afterthoughts. We're dealing with a canker.
We have details of these and many more coming up shortly. Do stay.
Starr News is coming to you live on Ultimate 106.9 FM in Kumasi, Empire 102.7 FM in Takrady, Cool 103.5 FM in Ho, Rage and Might FM in Tamale, Somali FM in Wa, My Star Radio in the USA. Also live on Facebook on Starr 103.5 FM and on starfm.com.gh around the world. This is Starr 103.5 FM.
You're welcome once again to Starr 103.5 FM. I am Serwaa Amihere. This afternoon, fire has gutted part of the Job 600 building in Parliament. The fire damaged a storeroom, but the cause is yet to be known. I beg your pardon. Thick smoke could be seen coming from several offices as firefighters tried to put out the flames. Staff and workers were quickly evacuated to safety while emergency teams worked to control the fire and find out what started it. An official of fire service has been speaking to the media about the incident.
We had a call at 10:15. We dispatched an appliance that was from the headquarters to the place. And when we got here, we realized that there was an initial problem with water. We have that hydrant here, but the pressure was low. So we had to quickly, call 2 appliances for the sake of water supply. And it's in the second floor where this old archives are now put there. And currently the fire is under control. We are only doing cooling at the place. So we use 1 hour, 60 minutes to be able to extinguish the fire.
How challenging was the work in putting out this blaze? How challenging was it for your officers?
Yeah, the place was so smoky, and we had to use the breathing apparatus, and that was what helped us a lot. We had enough, so we were able to go to the seat of the fire.
What are your preliminary findings? What is it pointing to?
We are yet to know the cause of the fire. Investigations has begun, and we'll come out with the cause of the fire in due course.
This was the first time we are recording a fire incident on the same complex. How concerning is that?
Yes, fire, we can never predict. Anything can happen. So you should not doubt that. That's why you have all kind of things there. Anything could happen to cause fire.
We are aware that the fire tender station here in Parliament has developed some fault, is undergoing servicing. When is it returning?
Oh, very soon. Within the week, it will return. Fortunately, we have stations around to cover the place. So there's no problem.
Finally, there is this request from your end that this arc, the main entrance to the job system, it must go because it's too short for your average fire turntable when you have to fight blaze on the higher floors. How soon should this arc go?
It should not go. We have better, appliances. Fortunately, government procured us 2 hydraulic platforms. They can even go to the 16th to 17th floor. So we have hydraulic platform. But because we are in the 2nd floor, we didn't need any hydraulic platform or turntable ladder here.
I was talking about the entrance because the hydraulic platform will have to enter the job 600. The entrance here?
No. You mean the entrance? Yes. All right, that may be the challenge, but we normally pass through other sources. Not only through here, we can go through the back to get access to the place.
The Greater Accra Regional Commander for the Fire Service, ACFO1 Roberta Agri-Gunson, has also been speaking to the media.
Around 9:45, we received a distress call, and within less than 5 minutes, our appliance was here. Guys, what we are saying now is fire that has affected one of the rooms. It is like a storeroom because we have some storage items there. So our aim now is to get the fire confined. After the fire is confined, then we know how to extinguish it. The most important thing for us now is to confine the fire so that the fire does not travel to other unaffected rooms. If we would know what actually caused the fire, then it will be after our firefighting. But at the moment, the situation is very calm. So everybody should keep the heart at rest. The situation is controlled.
Everything is
It's very controlled now.
So is the place safe for staff to work?
No, it is not safe now because we have to extinguish the fire totally. So after extinguishing of the fire, that is when we can come out with all other things.
Do we still have flames there?
Initially we saw a flame, so we assumed that was the start of fire. It's been tackled. The place is very smoky now, so it is difficult for us to come out with anything for now.
How many fire tenders have been called? To which exactly where the fire was?
No, you know the tender cannot climb a stairway. So it is the human being who is to climb the stairway. So we had to just lay our hoses from where the tender is, the closest place where the tender is, to the first floor.
So how many tenders have you deployed so far?
Currently we are using 3, but luckily for us there is enough of water in Parliament. So we are relying on the water source of Parliament to refill our.
Let's speak with our parliamentary correspondent, Ibrahim Al-Hassan. IB, thank you very much for joining us. Has the fire been doused yet?
Yes, Serwaa. So after about 1 hour, almost 10 minutes, the fire service was about 3 fire tenders. And then a number of individuals here have been able to bring the blaze under control. It was not a heavy blaze to start with. It took place there's a floor between the first floor and the second floor, and that's where Parliament has its archive, where documents are kept, and that's where the blaze took place. And because of the fact that there were many papers there, it made the process of getting the fire under control a bit difficult. Otherwise, according to the chief fire officer, this would have been a very small incident. Nonetheless, after an hour of battling the blaze and also ensuring that there are enough buffers created to ensure the fire does not travel to any other place, the incident has finally been brought under control. And of course, but this is not the first time, Serwaa. I'm sure you've heard something like this from Parliament. About 7 years ago, a similar thing happened, and that time around it happened on the 10th floor. This time around it's between the second and then the first floor, and so it was quite easier for the fire tenders, the regular ones, to be able to attend to this. After the entire incident, our engagement with the chief fire officer, the assurance us that, as you are aware, and I'm sure listeners will be aware, the fire tender stationed here in Parliament has been out of service for months now. The assurance is that within a matter of 1 week, that fire tender is expected to return here, among other assurances that have been given. But what is of exciting value to many workers here in Parliament is that today is a holiday. The Speaker has issued a directive that they should go home and then await a communication from the legislature based on a recommendation of the firemen here, especially given the fact that investigations have started. And I'm sure you and listeners will want to find out what the cause of the incident is. Per the accounts of the chief fire officer, they cannot conclusively state what the trigger for this fire incident is. But investigations have commenced. But because it is secluded
to just the archive. The assurance from Kitado, who used to be the Director of Public Affairs for Parliament of Ghana, is that by tomorrow, all the workers who have now been asked to go home can return.
Thank you very much, Ibrahim Al-Hassan. That is our parliamentary correspondent with the updates there. But still on this issue, a few weeks ago, Ibrahim Al-Hassan, who is our parliamentary affairs correspondent, highlighted the lack of fire safety in Parliament. Let's listen.
How long will it take for the sick fire tender to return here to be on standby to protect the lives of parliamentarians, workers of Parliament, and everybody who comes to Parliament? Should we experience another fire outbreak that's of a higher magnitude than what was witnessed in July 2017?
Okay.
I request for information about the lingering questions on my mind. One has got to do with the fire engine that is missing completely in Parliament, and then also the entrance to Job 600, which is quite shorter than the average height of a turntable that is used by the National Fire Service. Well, when I went to the fire service post here in Parliament, the officers there, including the commander, directed me to the regional fire command. So on we go to the Greater Accra Regional Fire Command for answers. I wish me luck. Just behind me is the fire engine that services the Parliament of Ghana. And as you can see, the head is tilted, signaling that there is some works being done. Of course, as we were told earlier, this engine was faulty, and so we had to come for servicing. Of course, the head is tilted. This is at the Greater Accra Regional Fire Service Command, basically. So I'll engage the regional fire officer and then get to understand exactly what has been done. We can see that there's some work being done. Just tell us exactly what's happening.
The Parliament vehicle was brought in. We worked on it, it went, and other faults came up. So it was brought back. Our men have worked on it, but hearing an unusual sound, we preferred bringing in some specialized people who are specialized with the comms engine, just to help us identify what the issue is. The gentleman was working on the car, then there was an emergency.
Are you able to tell us roughly when the Parliament fire engine will return to its destination?
We would plead and appeal to the public that they should give us some time. Yes.
And that report was filed by parliamentary correspondent Ibrahim Al-Hassan.
Given the projected crop failure, without any interventions, this could lead to nationwide food shortage and its resultant implications. Another effect that we're very concerned about is the loss of farmer investment.
That was Minister for Food and Agriculture Brian Echampong there, addressing what he said is a looming food crisis in the country. Yesterday, during a press briefing, the Agric Minister announced an immediate ban on the export of grains due to the ongoing dry spell affecting the northern regions of the country. He explained that the ban was to ensure the availability of crops for the domestic market amid the challenging weather conditions.
In response to the phenomenon, the government is taking immediate actions to address the situation. In the medium to long term, government expects the sector to develop resilience to these climatic conditions as it rolls out more irrigation and water management schemes. The immediate interventions from now to January 2025. The following measures have been approved by government for implementation by the ministry to avert a food security crisis. With immediate effect, government is placing a ban on the export of grains, including maize, rice, soya bean, until the situation normalizes. This measure is essential to ensure the availability of these critical crops on the domestic market. Any farmer with stock and interested in selling should contact our district directorates across the country, our district aggregators, or the Directorate of Crops, Ministry of Agriculture. This is to ensure that farmers do not suffer adversely from this ban. As earlier mentioned,
And that was Brian Echampon, who is Minister for Food and Agriculture. Well, government's decision has not been well received. One of the affected groups, Peasant Farmers Association, believes the move may not yield desired results. According to the former executive director of the group, Charles Nyaba, the move could lead to neighboring countries withholding imports in retaliation.
Other part that I have serious concern has to do with the quick measure that government take to ban export of certain commodities without actually doing proper analysis to know the commodities that are affected, to know the total crop budget of the farmer, for us to agree on fixed price. We say this because when things like this happen, you don't only look at one side, you also look at the impact on the producer. Last year and last 2 years, when Ghana restricted movement of certain commodities, the domestic market could not give farmers competitive prices. You take soya beans, you take maize, you take rice, for instance. They were offering prices that if farmers were to take those prices, they were going to run into a complete loss and they wouldn't be able to continue to produce this year. So what happened was that we approached the ministry to tell them that, look, this is what's happening. So we think that the best government can do is to go to the sale and mob the commodities with a good price so that farmers will remain in business. And then this year they continue to produce. They didn't listen to us. They didn't amend, less than amend, continue for us. The Burkina Faso came, the Togolese came, they paid prices 2 times the prices that we were even for government. So that is what made us be able to produce now. If you take soya beans that they are banning, the domestic soya bean processors have no capacity to make soya beans. So if you ban, and then you don't put measures in place to ensure that your domestic consumers or processors are able to buy and process, it means that farmers are going to hold on to these products and don't market. Once they are not in the market, it will affect that in the coming season. Besides that, at the moment, Ghana is not exporting anything. There's shortage of meat, there's shortage of rice, there's shortage of soybean. Then we rather rely on Burkina, Mali, is there for onions and tomatoes. Or if you do this and they are to retaliate, who will feel the impact?
Mr. Nyaba is also unhappy about the lack of stakeholders' consultation by government prior to the implementation of the measures, adding they were not enough to cushion affected farmers.
I think certain times government takes decisions without actually considering certain factors. For instance, we are the victims, and at the same time we are supposed to be the beneficiaries. We raise our land, we are elect. So whatever decisions you are taking to mitigate the effect on us, we need to be part. That is the first point. Otherwise, you may take a decision, and by the end of the day, it doesn't really address the main challenge. Now, in terms of the impact, it's real, and then it's not limited to only the northern part of the country, but also the middle belt is also another area that is impacted. If you do the total crop budget for 1 acre, it's about 6,000 Ghana cedis. 1 hectare is 2.5 acres. For me, it's good, but I think it's woefully inadequate. That's one angle. Secondly, how is the distribution going to be done? We have concern because in the past, we have similar experiences.
And you heard there Charles Nyaba. He's the former president for the Peasant Farmers Association. Let's have a conversation on this. Joining me on the phone is the NDC spokesperson on agriculture for their manifesto, Harry Yamson. Thank you very much for your time. What is the NDC's reaction to this news?
Good afternoon, Serwaa. I didn't get the background. I was actually on the Zoom call link your team sent me. So I've not got the background to the question.
I'm sure that you have heard that the Agric Minister has put a ban on the export of grains. so that it's meet local demands. Are you aware?
Oh, yes. To that, yes, I can speak. I think it's rather disturbing news for all of us. If we are going to ban agricultural exports from countries that depend on us, similarly, they can also respond. And that is not good for trade, it is not good for politics, it's not good for diplomacy. Now, to the point of the steps taken yesterday, we have known, government has known at least since April that the rainfall pattern was off and there was a likelihood of a negative impact on farmers. And absolutely nothing was done. That speaks a lot about the focus of government to start with. Secondly, we are now going to spend $10.5 billion of unplanned expenditure, and without any real systems in place. So that's another risk of waste that we are confronting. It also, none of the announcements also address the issue of food supply. Indeed, the finance minister has signaled we are going to possibly have to increase our import bill for food. So we're going to pay farmers for something we could have prevented, because we could have taken action much earlier in April, May, and June to prevent this situation. Now we will have to support the farmers and also find money to import food. So all around, the bill is not going to be $10.5 billion, which they've only funded about $6 billion. We're going to spend additional amounts of money importing. And that is even if our neighboring countries look kindly on us and forget about the fact that we are banning exports and actually closing our borders and putting military people on our borders to prevent any exports from happening.
All right. Okay, Mr. Yamson, what in your view should governments do moving forward?
At this point in time, you have the droughts anyway. You have the losses anyway. So, quite honestly, the question that we have to ask ourselves is, what are the reserves that we are supposed to have? Because we also haven't heard what the food buffer company has. So we are unable to address the question of what reserves Ghana has for grains, for any other critical staples. But government needs to be clear about what we have and how it's going to manage those stocks. Government needs to make sure that there's a plan to ensure that the distribution of food across the country is even based on what the population needs.
And you heard Harry Yamson, he's NDC spokesperson on agriculture for their 2024 manifesto. Let's still stay on food security. And Member of Parliament for the Tanga Central constituency, Isaac Adongo, has been outlining plans to tackle food inflation in the country. According to him, the next NDC administration plans to address the situation with the creation of the Farmers Service Centres, the provision of essential agricultural tools, and the establishment of food production processes. In an interview earlier on GH Today, the Member of Parliament said these efforts will be funded through the Exim Bank and are designed to make agriculture more appealing to young people, ultimately boosting food security.
Is our biggest problem. We are not able to produce enough to feed ourselves, and we are spending the scarce resources to import food into our country after several years. And so we want to reset agriculture and make agriculture the mainstay of the driver of our economy. And that is why His Excellency is very clear that he wants to make agriculture attractive to our youth by introducing what we call the Farmer Services Centers that will provide all the equipment and the inputs that the youth need and engage our chiefs and landowners to acquire land on behalf of the state and make them available to the youth, provide them with the tractors to prepare the land, provide them with the broadcasters to plant their seeds, and to provide them with fertilizer and weedicides to prepare their lands. And at the end of the day, also make sure that we're able to provide them with the combined harvesters and all that they need to harvest, and integrate that forward by using the Exim Bank to provide support to the private sector to set up processing factories to process those food either for exports or for domestic consumption.
And that's Member of Parliament for Bolgatanga Central Constituency, Isaac Adongo. Moving on, there's heightened tension at Serwaa in the eastern region. This follows clashes between NDC supporters and armed men clad in military uniform. According to reports, the party supporters prevented the armed men from arresting the Member of Parliament for the area, Bismarck Tetenyako. The intervention by the supporters led to a 30-minute standoff before the men departed. NDC Communications Officer for Manya Krobo, Emmanuel Kwesi Lawe, has been narrating the incident to Starr News.
I was ashamed yesterday that I'm a Ghanaian. That around 11:40, we were in front of the MP's house. We were in the MP's house, only to hear that a car was parked in front of the MP's door. So we came out and we saw a troop. We don't also see their names, because as a policeman, we need to identify them in their chest with their names, with their ranks. But they were in pullovers and they covered their faces. You only see their eye. About 15, 20 of them.
And that is the communications officer for the Manya Krobo constituency, Emmanuel Kwesi Lawe. Away from that, the Member of Parliament for the Northern constituency, Samuel Okujetu Ablakwa, has downplayed Dr. Bawumia's response to state capture. Concerns about politically exposed persons acquiring state properties have heightened following quest by Agric Minister Brian Champon to acquire majority stake in SNIT hotels. The NPP flag bearer, Dr. Bawumia, during his media encounter, stated that he agrees with any law that seeks to bar politicians from acquiring state properties. Have a listen.
As I said, Palugu, we want to look at grant and private sector financing, buying state assets. I think that it's something that we should all support. If we have any bill that prevents state officials from buying state assets, I think it's very well in the right direction.
And that is the flag bearer of the NPP, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. It's now time to bring you the latest in the world of sports, and joining me is Jones Aji. Jones, good afternoon. What do you have for us?
Congress. Now, the National Democratic Congress says their 10 points agenda on sports are not just promises, but policies they are capable of undertaking. Spokesperson for sports on the manifesto team for the party, Edem Agbana, who was speaking to J1 Sports, says the NDC rejected some ideas from some federations, but have picked policies on sports they believe they can deliver on.
In all our discussions with President Mahama, we got proposals from many of the sports federations saying, put this in the manifesto, put that in the manifesto, we'll be happy with you. But he said, guys, let us only include things that we are capable of doing. Let's not just write it because we think that that's what the people want to hear. And so as we release our manifesto, we know some of the federations are not happy with us. But this 10-point agenda, there are things that we are clear in our minds. We are convinced in our hearts that we are going to do it.
All right, so that'll be all for sports. My name is Jones.
Jones, we apologize for that. Thank you very much for bringing us sports news. And before we go, the National Peace Council has called on Christian leaders to be circumspect with their prophecies and pronouncements when commenting on political issues. At a dialogue with prophets in the Greater Accra region ahead of the 2024 elections, the chairman of the Peace Council, Reverend Dr. Ernest Edujemfi, disclosed that the Peace Council is currently working on the demands of the NDC over its decision to not sign the Peace Pact. And that will be all for the Star Midday News. I am Serwaa Amihere. For more news, log on to www.starfm.com.gh. Have a good afternoon.